We are delighted to start yet another thought provoking webinar on connecting the dots. First and foremost, we extend our gratitude to our esteemed speakers for their participation in this panel discussion. A warm welcome to all. Vandana Teji, founder and CEO, The Unicorn People. Deepika Kaur, Chief of Staff, India and San Francisco in Eisner Ramper. Dr. Rajeshwari Malik, Professor and Consultant at Woxen University and Women's Microbank PNG. Anumrita Mukherjee, writer at the Unicorn People. Gender sensitivity in the workplace involves recognizing and respecting the diverse needs and experience of all genders. It is crucial for fostering an inclusive environment where everyone feels valued and supported. As the ecospace of human resource continues to evolve, so too must the strategies and practices that promote gender sensitivity. Our esteemed panelists would share their views on this insightful topic, gender sensitivity and the changing ecospace of HR. HRAI welcomes you all to the session on connecting the dots. To know more about HRAI and its events, I would request all our participants to visit the link and details posted in the chat window. It would be great to have all the participants' feedback. We will be running a poll before the Q&A session. Request all the participants to kindly give your feedback on the session. I now take the privilege of introducing our moderator for the session, Anumrita Mukherjee, writer at the Unicorn People. Anumrita is a student of English literature with an academic interest in areas of gender and sexuality studies, post-colonialism, and critical and cultural theory. Anumrita has done BA English from St. Xavier's University, Kolkata, and MA English from Tezpur University. They have previously led student political forums such as All India Queer Association President in 2019-20 and seek to further their research in the aforementioned fields. Their areas of work engagement includes social research and content writing, graphic design, video editing, and teaching initiatives. Feel free to connect with Anumrita on LinkedIn. The link for the same has been shared in the chat window. So let's get right to it and give the platform to Anumrita. Over to you.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes, you're audible, Anumrita.
Yeah. Okay, thank you so much, Fazil sir. Today, we embark on a pivotal discussion on gender sensitivity and the changing ecospace of HR. And master's graduate, and research interests lie in sociological inquiries in gender and sexuality studies. I am a part of the new generation in the workforce and very passionate about advancing diversity inclined policies and eager to see the inclusivity that we are striving so hard to create. India's gender gap in the labor force participation remains alarmingly wide, with only 19.2% of women employed as compared to the 70.1% of men, placing India at 135 rank out of 146 countries in the World Economic Forum's Gender Gap Report 2022. The COVID-19 pandemic exacerbated these issues, leading to a she session that disproportionately affected sectors predominantly employing women. The World Economic Forum estimates it will take 132 years to achieve full gender parity in the global workforce at the current rate of progress. However, increasing female participation could add $0.7 trillion to India's GDP by 2025. On a brighter note, there is a growing focus on on hiring women from STEM courses, with 62% of the employers intending to hire more women in the financial year 2023-24. However, despite these positive changes, many LGBTQIA employees in India face workplace harassment, discriminatory treatment, and limited job opportunities. While 50% of these queer employees feel that their organizations embrace and support the queer community, 60% of them have faced harassment, explicit or implicit, with 73% not reporting such incidents. Creating safe and inclusive environments in the workspace is the need of the hour. Now, let us welcome our esteemed speakers who will delve into these issues and share their insights. First, I'd like to introduce Deepika Kaur. Deepika serves as Chief of Staff for Eisner Amper's India and San Francisco offices. She works closely with the managing partner India on right-shoring strategy and operations for the firm. Deepika began her Eisner Amper journey as an HR manager for the India offices in 2017 and has since facets of HR, including talent acquisition, performance management, business partnering, and L&D, with over 12 years of HR experience, most of which has been in financial services. She holds a postgraduate diploma in management from Goa Institute of Management and a Bachelor of Arts in Psychology Honors from Punjab University, India. Please join me in welcoming Deepika. Next, we have Dr. Rajeshwari Malik. Dr. Malik holds an MPhil and MSc from the United Nations University in the Netherlands, a PhD from Delhi University, and an MBA from Kurukshetra University, India. She is a seasoned professional dedicated to women empowerment, transformative education, and gender equality through sustainable development goals. Dr. Malik has extensive experience in social entrepreneurship. Finally, it is my pleasure to introduce Ms. Vandana Teji. Ms. Teji is the founder and chief consultant of the Unicorn People, an award-winning HR consulting firm known for its innovative CHRO services. With over 15 years of experience, she has worked with major conglomerates like Wipro, Concentrix, United Health Group, etc. An expert in organizational development and culture building, she is also a Government of India resource person for POSH, Prevention of Sexual Harassment at the Workspace. She serves as the national president for the WICCI Pay Parity Council and is a member of Green Hearts Dignity and Janitri. Her accolades include the 1,000 Women Faces of Asia Award for Legal Awareness and Human Rights and the Innovative Leader of the Year 2021 by the HR Association of India. Please join me in welcoming Ms. Vandana Teji. Now, without further ado, let us dive into our discussion. My first question will be to Dr. Malik. Can you share specific examples of how gender-sensitive teaching methods and pedagogy have impacted student outcomes at your institutions?
Thank you, Anumrita, for the warm welcome and the question as well. And a warm hello to all my fellow panelists. We are all here for the very crucial topic, gender sensitivity. When we talk about gender sensitivity at workplaces, in school, academia is no different. So when we talk about academics, we have to talk about school education first before moving to college education, where I was a professor and I'm still a professor associated with Watson University. Now, when I talk about one specific incident where way in which we have changed things, there was this course designed for early learning educators, where with one of the organization, our organization was responsible for designing of course curriculum, and we were focusing on two particular things. One was financial skills management or introduction to basic finance, and the second one was socio-emotional learning. And in both these topics, it was very, very difficult for us to reach some kind of a middle ground where we can have a topic specifically handled by both the genders. because when we did the base study, it was found that the basic understanding about financials first, basic financial education. There was a huge gender disparity in boys and girls for various reasons. The research further went into finding the various reasons. But for designing of curriculum, for teaching methodology, we we reached that conclusion that there cannot be a one size fit all curriculum, and we'll have to incorporate separate modules for girls and boys in order to bring them at par. For example, for socio emotional learning, uh, mothers were taken as core example to teach the students instead of just making gender references or any other general references. So because how they perceive their mother or what they tell about their mother, that was a very different kind of I would say relationship, and it opened different, it literally opened their eyes to so many stereotypes they had. There's so many gender blinding because, for example, a simple thing like asking for food, whom they would ask for food. So automatically the answer was mother. But why mother? So there were certain boys and girls, there were certain participants in that workshop who had only father, and then came the issue why this role is assigned only to them and why it is not assigned to this. So when we talk about teaching methodology, when we talk about post curriculum, the rectification, the improvement have to start from the early learning education. Then it can move further to higher schools and then to the colleges and university. Another specific example which I would like to quote in my, which was specifically used in my classroom teaching was the role plays. During the role plays and during theater enactments and other experiential learning activities that we used to take up, I would make sure that the roles were not assigned as per gender, but to challenge them, they would play any gender roles. So, for example, there can be a female playing the character of a male lead, and then accordingly they would be adjusting. So they would be more conscious towards the hidden stereotypes and how the behavior is and how cool it felt like doing something as a boy which she would not have thought of doing as a girl. So these kind of learning tools have been commonly used in my classrooms, and this actually opens up a lot of discussions after these activities are conducted. Over to you, Anamrita.
Thank you, ma'am. That was so insightful to know. Obviously, both genders are not at par, given the lack of equality in access to resources, and hence to approach a more equitable way of learning to bring them both at par. I think I agree with it. My next question will be to Ms. Deepika. How do you address deep-rooted cultural and societal biases that employees may bring into the workspace?
Thank you for the question, Anumrita, and thanks for the warm welcome. So let me start by saying that this first step really is to go in knowing that we have these biases. And that for me has been really that big life changing step to go in knowing, let's say if I talk about me, I grew up in a tier two city in the north of India, grew up identifying as a woman, and that is my box. So everything I look at is out of that box. And so, what we do at my workplace, we've done a lot of training on the unconscious bias. And I feel year one, year two of that training really just helps people understand and acknowledge that the unconscious bias exists. By the time you keep doing it again and again, and you keep talking about it, when you get to a few years down, people understand their unconscious biases and how they play a role in their recruiting decisions, in their decisions when they are deciding who to promote or not, or when they are, making assumptions about if whether someone is ambitious or not. So it really is that constant training, constant conversation about it that I feel helps people acknowledge and understand it. And I feel when the leadership starts to see it, understand it, talk that language, it starts to make a very, very big difference. And I'll tell you a little story that I would love to share, a little anecdote actually, when I was listening to Dr. Malik talking about her experiences with students. And so I have a 2.5-year-old, and so one of the things I, continue to encourage my husband to do is, join in all of the things that traditionally land with the mom, because completely okay for dad to also feed the kid, change the kid, take the kid to the washroom. And when other dads see that, I feel it's it's our part as a family to help creating that change, because completely okay for and for my little daughter to grow up knowing that a lot of things are both parents' responsibility. So it's kind of like making those changes at all levels wherever we can, and being cognizant of it.
Anamrita? Hello?
Chandana ma'am? Hello?
Yeah, we can hear you. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah,
ma'am,
yeah.
you're on mute.
I can.
Yeah, yeah. If you would like to add anything, I don't know.
I would definitely like to add, and Anamrita, the starting question has been really, really thought-provoking. So thank you for that question, because both ma'am and Deepika, both they come from different worlds. You know, Rajeshri ma'am comes from the academia, and wherein she is able to do so much, and Deepika is able to execute so much and plan also. Both of them spoke about the verbal part of it. I am here to talk about the non-verbal part. Okay. So when it comes to gender sensitivity, it doesn't matter in my head. I've done so much of awareness sessions on day in and day out. I speak about pause, gender sensitivity, LGBTQIA plus. So many agendas I keep talking about. Okay. However, what has played a very major impact is seeing is believing. Yeah. When you as as an organization start putting up those visible highlights and celebrating those days, not just about going in GAN mode and talking about everything, but also spreading unconscious bias, removing those. There are times when I see certain words and I question my own self, that, oh, am I? One thing that has always stuck with me is there's certain biases we grow up with. There are so many people talking negative about it. There's so many people, in the media, in your family, they're talking about certain biases. Like if you remember, the LGBTQIA plus thing. It is one of the fastest implementation of change that we are seeing as a society, as a culture. Any changes that has been influenced and made sure that there's an impact, it takes around 100 years. But you look at the LGBTQIA plus, because the person is from the family. And when the person is standing like a question in the family, it's there in your face. It's the elephant in the room, whatever you want to call it, is there in your face. And you have to take a decision. What kind of a parent do you want to become? What kind of an organization you want to become? You have your workforce. There's no time to think and redo the clock. Redoing is over. You better fit in, or to vanish like the dinosaurs. So we have come to that era. That was my piece. Over to you.
Absolutely, absolutely, I agree. Um, if I may ask a question now again to Dr. Malik. Yeah. Uh, all the changes that you have seen implemented in the curricula, uh, can you talk about anything specific change and how was it received by the students or the faculty in an institution regarding gender sensitivity policies, of course?
Uh, Thank you, Anumrita. Uh, I think I would personally say people are not very open to changes. And especially if it requires them to adjust to something, they become overguarded, they become a little more defensive. So when I talk about organizations where, especially in educational institutions, where if some women start behaving like a leader, when I say leader, the leader in the sense it had been accepted around us. So they would start commenting, they would start demeaning, and I have faced, and so many other people around me, everyone has faced this kind of thing, where they start looking at the women as more bossy, more they would say torchbearer of feminism. That's the easiest way to tarnish every efforts that you try to put in fighting only for women. But then once they understand that the intentions are all good, it is not you against us, it is just changes in the whole institution and system and curricula around us that we are trying to bring in. And then when you try to tell them that it, although it does affect you, but it is for the betterment, it is for your betterment. It's not that everything around you had been good for you. So the overall perception, I would say, is never easy going to begin with. But if you are so persistent, if you're so clear on what you're talking about, and also when if you have the right intentions, then people start seeing things in the right spirit, and then also become your supporters. I uh, in my previous organization, I became head of the department at a very I would say, an early stage of my career. So I joined, and then very immediately, within 1 or 2 years of my joining, I became a program coordinator responsible for a whole program. And I was very assertive. And back then, I was even more, I would say, not very. Not very adjusting and adaptive. I was more vocal and very adamant towards, this has to be done and that has to be done. Now I have kind of matured, and I let people uh, actually present a few other perspectives and more adjustments. But I accept this because at that particular point of time, if I look back, it used to feel like I have to be very strong in order to remain where I am. So that kind of, I would say, most of the females who grow up in organizations have to fight this personal battle also, that they have to prove themselves in every point of time or every stage of their career. So I would say it was not completely antagonism, but yes, not very welcoming as well. And it took some time for people to accept that things are going to change.
Because change is the only constant. People will obviously be opposed to it because it pushes them out of their comfort zone, but there is no way around it. And we cannot just, otherwise, we'll just, all growth will just stagnate.
Yeah.
Yeah. My next question will be to Deepika ma'am. Uh, how do you ensure that your gender sensitivity initiatives at your organization also address intersectional issues of socioeconomic status, physical disability, mental illness, and any other factors?
So I'd say, again, for us, Namrata, big part has been working on that unconscious bias, and from there, ensuring that everything we are doing, we are keeping all of the workforce in mind and their needs, and from an employee engagement standpoint, from a variety of different initiatives standpoint, are people connected? Hi everyone. All and rapidly attack. Give me a second. There's an announcement behind me. All be aware that so, the for the session are limited. See you soon. And so we also have an LGBTQIA group that so we have a variety of employee resource groups. And so one of them is the LGBTQI group. One is the Women of Eisner Amper. And I feel specifically those groups, when members of the group get together, have certain initiatives that they take together, catch up with each other, understand the various challenges that they are facing, and are just really able to talk through in a comfortable, non-judgmental environment. It makes a big difference. When I was listening to Dr. Malik share about her experiences, and it is kind of like so many of us in at different times of our life would have experienced some of those. And when you really just talk through that in a non-judgmental fashion, it gives you so many ideas on how do you address it, how do you talk to those people, and how do you also help them be aware of their biases, their prejudices, or how their behavior is impacting you as a professional. And I would say when it comes to mental health, and again, some of the other things you mentioned, still a long way to go for all of us in India in general. We have to keep trying. We have to keep increasing the awareness. And I say, it starts with us first as HR folks, getting more cognizant, getting more aware, and addressing our own biases first. I see Vandana smiling. Vandana, what would you like to add?
I just really like the point that you both have put forward. Yes, when it comes to bringing changes, it has to start as early as possible and not just reach, my man is already touch basing at the first level at the academia. Then they come to us at the corporate level. But it starts right from the beginning, right from their birth. And, there are times, if, unlearning can happen to only a certain level. So my point is that if you want to introduce a changing, life-breaking idea, introduce it as early as possible. Okay. So there are things that honestly, like I will give you a very trivial example. So I have my niece and my nephew. Okay, so they are now the part of some a group who is not just reached 12th standard or approximately in that part. They are about to hit the college life. Okay. Now, if you look at them, they do till now they are very naive. Okay, that's the word to use. They're very naive to this gender piece. They do not wait for a male to make a decision because that's the household that we are in. Wherein my mother has always been working. Everybody, all the family members have been working. So neither my niece knows this that whether there is a question of not working. That option is not given. But I'm just saying because the sensitization was introduced, not like that there are certain things. There are certain roles that will be done only by the males of the family or females of the family. So when we introduce it so early, today they do not wait for a decision made by my brother or some other male member in the family. They just know that hierarchically, Dadi is the highest in the hierarchy, and so they have to approach Dadi for any decision making. And in case they want to present their point of view, they will do a thorough research and present it like a PPT. Okay, so we have gone to that level. But then, yes, my point is that whatever it is, gender sensitivity has to be introduced as early as possible if you really want to see a change in the society.
Exactly, I agree. Um, my next question will be to all three of you. Please answer one by one as best as you see fit. My question is, how does your organization or institution ensure that the leadership roles are inclusive and representative of diverse genders? How do you hold the leaders and managers accountable for fostering an inclusive and gender sensitive environment?
I can start. I would say for us, it really comes top down because when the highest echelons of leadership believe in that, is where it makes the biggest difference, and that's where that is a big part of the focus. And I'll come back to the leadership, but let's say for us at the staff levels and all of my entry levels, I see kind of at 50-50%, or some teams will even have a higher percentage of women than men. But when we look at leadership, we have, if not as bad a challenge as everyone else, we also have a challenge. And um, what's worked for us is to ensure we are able to provide women with the flexibility and support they need at that middle stage in life where they are at middle management and getting into leadership roles, but also have a lot happening on the family front. And I've been here long enough, so seeing that sort of support provided to several of our women leaders who are able to then work through all of those challenges and have the time and ability to be able to focus on family as well, and continue to provide their leadership there at the firm. So I think for me that's what I've seen here, and that's what I've seen has worked, because typically, and all of us, right, we have times when there's so much happening on one front that the other has to ends up suffering a bit. So kind of work life balance is not a continu it's a bit of a continuum that sometimes work takes priority, sometimes life takes priority. But if overall both of them balance out, is where I feel women are able to continue to grow and continue to contribute dramatically. So that'd be what I'd add. And over to both of you.
Thank
I
you.
will point, ma'am. I just wanted to add one point with regards. I think you bring together your job as an academician would be to some this whole big thing. How do we do it? Because she comes from a corporate world. I come now from the entrepreneurs world. Okay, entrepreneur world. If you look at it, there is a dearth. There is a dearth of gender sensitivity. There's a dearth of gender inclusivity there. Yeah. If you see, we talk that there are so many representation, but if you talk in real numbers, um, the numbers are not great, of course. And like if I go and attend a meeting today, wherein we have all founders of various businesses, I will find not more than 10 women and 40 men. I will give you like after out of the 50 people, that is the gender sensitivity as of now, gender mix that is there. So for when it comes to creating that inclusivity, I think as an entrepreneur, I can talk about that. We are doing a lot of women empowerment sessions wherein we are training. We, in the sense, the NGO I'm associated with, Empower Care Foundation, via that, we are doing a lot of sessions for women empowerment. Okay, wherein we are teaching women to run a business right from scratch, big or small. Okay, so this is one of the major efforts that doesn't have any government funds, doesn't have anybody else contributing. It is a sheer thing initiative being run by the foundation and foundation members, okay, as of now. And we are trying to raise funds. In fact, Janitri, on the other hand, the other NGO that I'm in, wherein we are training them on specialized things like perfume making, soap making. These are small options of ventures, but then it is important for them to learn from scratch. Okay, and that is the reason I would say, since there is no leadership level in the entrepreneur world, I would say. Of course, they are the top level entrepreneurs and the smaller entrepreneurs like us. And so top level entrepreneurs, and you all know that they have various foundations already working in this direction. And the small entrepreneurs, they are trying to contribute from their either being by running the awareness session or supporting something which is already creating that. Okay. Ma'am.
Uh, wonderful insights. See, I think uh, organization culture is always governed by the beliefs and vision of the top management. So if the top management actually believes in gender sensitivity, believes in equal rights and gender parity, then that would to a certain extent percolate down even to the rest of the organization policies and procedures. And I'm happy to say that I have worked in organizations, and specifically right now in this particular time sphere, I'm associated with various organizations where women are there in the top positions. And these women are all, they have been through rough phases in their professional life, and they have seen what struggles they have to make in order to actually fit into their work-life balance into the existing organization culture. So all of them are actually contributing a lot towards changing the policy. For example, I would like to quote a specific example. There's this association called Business Women of Pacific, PNG Association. This organization is a group of women who are involved in business, and they want to support women entrepreneurship specifically for the college girls. So they wanted to design a curriculum. They wanted to design an event for them. And they found that it is very difficult to get girls independently enter into startups or start their own procedures. There are limitations, and we all understand that. So what they did was they put a condition that we would give you sponsorship. We'll pick up the best five, but the condition is that at least if there are five people in the startup, three should be girls. The majority girls should be there in that business plan or startup competition. So that ways they changed the whole perspective, and this particular became the policy of that particular foundation. So in future also, if there would be any event, they would ensure that girls are given a little support and a hand holding in order to actually uh, come at an equal platform. So by adding certain things like this, these small things actually helps to bring equity and equality into the right place in your policies. So that is what I have seen so many organizations. There's this organization called All India Local Governance, which basically plays a role in spreading awareness about the government schemes, various government policies through local channels and local authorities. So I was conducting this workshop for women sarpanch in the interiors of Haryana. And it was amazing to listen to their difficulties and how they are changing the perception around them, and how people were not even taking them seriously. All of you must have watched the Panchayat series, the most popular one. So much of it is so real because they have actually called a term called as Sarpanchpati. With even if the woman is elected as a sarpanch, but the decision-making authority still lies with the men of the family. So by changing policies, these women have actually made sure that whatever norms and rules and regulation, it is conveyed to everyone that this is the gender role in it, and this has to be done. So I'm I would again like to stress that it is the responsibility of women in leadership to ensure that the gender neutralization happens at the workplaces. And if it is not done there, then they have to be vocal about it, and they have to be, I would say, a little more visible in terms of bringing changes.
Yes, ma'am, too much pressure on our shoulders. That's not right. But I also wanted to add one closing point. Okay. Ma'am and Deepika, both of them mentioned one thing, top down approach. Okay. I am a believer if you see today's format of the session, I tried to do a bottom-down approach, wherein Anumrita, who would be the newest member in the organization or a setup, is asking us questions. Reason because it is high time as HR professionals, as people of the corporate, as people of the academia, of the entrepreneurship circle, understand what our people need. The changing times, it's no more driven by the top. If we continue to make decisions and policies in boardrooms, lights out what our employees actually want, retention will continue to be a bigger problem. Corporate, what they are not realizing is that slowly and steadily they are reaching wherein all the top talent is slowly moving to entrepreneurship. Okay, what they are going to be left with is the average and median class of the student population who will be joining them. And in case they still do not make fitting policies which are driven by their zero level employees, we will have a big challenge in retaining even them. So I think that's the closing point over here with this, you know. So please, in case you're still making policies, do a survey, run a survey, talk to the people what they want. Just don't implement it just because Google implemented this. Let's implement. No, Google is a Google. Are you a Google? No, you're not a Google. This is the basic question you have to ask yourself. And this is what we as consultants put in your head. And please ask these questions. You're not a Google. Let's have a like the first thing that you mentioned, it is very important to have that acceptance. Faisal has appeared. So Anumrita, this is your time.
Yeah. I agree with you, all three of you, the way you specified specific insights from your particular industries. Really, it does have to move from bottom to up. If the new generation is not included in the decision making, you are not going to prosper. That is really how it works. Especially Gen Z has very little patience to tolerate. But okay, without I would like to pass on the mic to Fazil sir for a minute.
Yeah, so before we move on to the Q&A, before we move on to the Q&A session, we will be running a poll to have the participants' valuable feedback on this session. The link for the same has been shared in the chat window. During this time, I request all the participants to also put your questions in the chat window, which you want our speakers to address. Anumrita, you can take some questions that I have shared with you. You can start with that.
While for the Q&A sessions, we have received a few questions that I will be asking to our panelists. I will not ask to a specific speaker. Whoever of you feel like you want to answer, or if all three of you want to answer it, please feel free to do so. First question we have is that how can HR ensure compliance with gender equality laws and regulations in different regions? What are the legal implications of failing to address gender sensitivity in the workspace? Okay. Deepika, if you would like to go forward with this question, or Vanyaman or Dr. Malik.
Sure, I can start with really a line that if there's something that is in the law, we have to do it. So there is kind of as HR people, our big part is ensuring compliance for sure. So that is kind of one, but I would love to hear more from Dr. Malik and Vandana.
Okay. I think in an organization, the first thing we should do is have a kind of interactive workshop with certain questions related to uh, unconscious biases that we share. Most of the time, I personally feel the organizations are doing things right on paper. So they'll have all the policies and procedure right there on the paper with all indices and everything. We have gender indexes, we have parity indexes, and we know we want to look good on paper, and that's what we do normally. So even when all the policies and procedures are on there, I think we should have certain qualitative workshops where we can uh, go into a deeper understanding of gender biases, and also try and find certain insights out of those workshops and try and modify the policies accordingly. I know there are so many uh, indexes which an organization pick up, even when they have to get the certification for best place to work and other things, they would have certain parameters mentioned there specifically taking care of gender. But the biggest problem that happens with organization is it become all whitewash, or I would say it would become all black and white and on numbers and documentation more than the actual cultural difference. So the stress should be more on qualitative aspects of the parameters rather than the quantitative aspects. That's my basic input into it.
Vandana ma'am, if you want to add anything, or I'll just move on to the next question we received. Okay, there might be an technical issue on her end, so we will come back to her if required. Otherwise, we are moving on to the next question for now. How can, this is a question again for both of you. How can HR stay updated on the latest legal developments related to gender sensitivity?
I'm so sorry, I had a technical glitch. Can you please repeat the question?
Yeah. The previous question that we talked about was how can HR ensure compliance with gender equality laws and regulations in different regions? What are the legal implications of failing to address gender sensitivity in the workspace?
The, you know, while of course Deepika and Rajeshwari ma'am have already spoken about, I think they would have spoken about the policies. But one thing that you all have to understand that today's new gen is not ready to take anything, which disrespects or disregards their own individuality. So putting a legal case against an organization is not a difficult task. Look at the latest Achar Sanhita. Then launching an online FIR is becoming very easy. So we as organizations, we have to ensure that the sensitivity is maintained at all levels, whether it is communication, whether it is policy, whether the imagery, at no given place, you can afford to take a stand which is against it. Because then, my dear friends, you will be against that friend. Then, legal is the way forward. My only request is, while of course there is, of course there's a posh policy that is for women. Then we are making them gender neutral. Then there's also a policy on diversity, and that I'm sure Deepika and ma'am have already spoken. Though I was disconnected, but I have this understanding that. But I'm just telling you that it doesn't matter if the ministry is auditing or not, if the manpower if it is being audited by the required authorities or not. But the new gen people, as Anamrita said very clearly, they have very little patience. They are not going to put up with it. They will not shy away from putting the case.
I would like to add one. I just recall the case which had been very much in news lately. It was this very celebrated newsreader, Palki Sharma Upadhyay's case with WION. If you look at the policies and procedures, the Z organization had all the policies and procedures in place. They had zero tolerance for gender, everything. But when you look at the actual organization culture, and when you look at the qualitative aspects of the experiences that women in that organization have, you can feel the difference. So this is when I say we stress so much on putting everything right on paper, but the stress should be on feeling right, not putting making it right. If you feel right, automatically things would be right on the paper. So that's what we need to actually change for policy designing, especially with women in leadership positions. We have to break it somewhere and then start afresh. It cannot be just mended and molded and folded and trying to fit into everyone into it. No, that's not how it is going to work in a long run.
Vandana ma'am, you're on mute. You're on mute.
Okay. Yeah. So I was saying, Deepika, if you can add on what different from a differently abled perspective, what are the other agendas that are being followed in your organizations?
I would say I see more of initiatives on the LGBTQIA front, and then additionally on lot of stuff for the women. Not as much on differently abled, but the intent is always that there is no discrimination, and kind of it really boils down to being able to embody that all of what we say on paper in spirit. And I think that is really the key, as Dr. Malik has pointed out, because when people feel that in spirit, and for me it really is when I'm talking to people, I ask them that, how do you feel about coming to work? Because whatever we put in all of the different places, it has to boil down to, do people feel happy coming into work? Do they like working with the people they're working with? Do they feel comfortable? Are they comfortable sharing their thoughts with someone? And do they feel confident that the management is invested in their success? So I think it's kind of really being able to boil down to those things, and that is the part of that, getting that DNA and culture right, that then aligns with whatever we've put on paper. Because absolutely big part of what we do is getting everything right on paper, but all of that has to translate into what that actual culture feels like, and what people's experience is when they walk in through the door. Anumrita, we ran away from your question. What was your second question?
Yeah.
No, we were talking. My question was about the legal aspects of HR, but I think the discussion really answered answered more than what the question asked. So, yeah, so I was
As
just
far as we
listening
have
into
done justice.
it. Yeah.
It's
Okay,
because of the
so I
legal
think
aspect. It's because of the legal aspects only we're making things right on paper, because
Unfortunately.
that's actually taking care of the legal aspects. So it's
Yeah, that's what I
never.
wanted to let people know that, ma'am, as you have rightly quoted that newsreader's case, that even if you have the papers right and if you do not have the practice right in place, then you are in trouble.
So we have POSH from like I think it came in 2013, POSH rules.
Correct, ma'am.
But has that stopped completely any kind of problems women face in workplaces? No, it doesn't. So what I'm saying is, when you make things right on paper, it is primarily to ensure that you comply with the legal aspects and everything. So
We are still
obviously, if you
struggling
don't
with the
do it right on
implementation of
paper, it is
that.
illegal.
Correct.
okay, this was very insightful listening to all three of you talk about different aspects and answering simple questions from various points of views. Right now, without further delay, I would like to hand over the back to Fazil sir.
Thank you, Anumrita, for guiding us through this session with your brilliant and insightful expertise. We extend our heartfelt thanks to Vandana, Dr. Rajeshwari, and Deepika for generously sharing their invaluable insights. It has been an honor to have such distinguished speakers enrich this engaging session with their perspectives. For those eager to learn and grow, the recording of today's session is available on our YouTube link shared in the chat window. As we wrap up today's session, a special thanks goes to our event partners, Geisha, NASCOM COE, Talgro, TLE, WICCI, LinkedIn Local, Ahmedabad, and India for their invaluable support to HRAI's events. To explore more about these associations, please visit the link provided in the chat window. That concludes today's webinar. We look forward to your participation in future sessions. Wishing you continued health and safety on your journey. Until our paths cross again, take care, stay positive, and farewell for now. Thank you, Anumrita. Thank you, Deepika. Thank you, Vandana.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Anamrita, and
Thank
thank you,
you.
Entire Association of India. And all of
Thank you, everyone.
you. Thank you.